Welcome in everybody to part 5 of this 10 steps to starting your Airbnb business. Okay, so we've already talked about funding, we've already talked about research, we've talked about niching down and figuring out who you want to serve and which communities you want to serve. So hopefully you've chosen where you want to start, who you want to start with. You've narrowed down those platforms where you're going to be able to go and market to those communities in the industries in which you want to house people in your units. So drum roll, the most important or maybe the most fun and probably the most nerve-wracking part of this entire process is going to be to start contacting, right? So we've also previously talked about making sure that you set up your business entity, your LLC, your website and things like that to make sure that you are ready to start reaching out and contacting people, which is why I had you guys do that very early on in this process, so that when this part came, that you guys are ready to start reaching out right away. So if you're still working on your website, you're still working on getting your entity set up, that's okay. But just make sure that all those things are in place before you start to reach out. So when it comes to contacting, as you all already know, we're talking about the rental arbitrage method, which means you guys are going to be renting a property and then re-renting it for a profit with the owner or complex's approval, right? You can either list this on Airbnb, short-term rentals, or you could do midterm rentals as well. I haven't gone over midterm rentals. I kind of touched on it in the previous video, but opposite of short-term rentals, midterm rentals is 30 days or more, where short-term rentals is 30 days or less, right? So that's the biggest difference, is that guests are staying a little bit longer than they typically would if they were booking on Airbnb or VRBO, traveling as vacationers. And so this could be also a very lucrative area to make money. Also, I really enjoy midterm rentals because midterms are a lot more predictable. Now, you may be able to make more money month over month with short-term rentals on Airbnb and Vrbo, etc. But with the midterm rentals, I'm able to predict my income for 6 to 12 months at a time, right? Baking in a few vacancies here and there. But again, most of my units, I do also operate Airbnb short-term rental. So when my midterm guest checks out, I then just list the property on Airbnb so that I'm getting consistent occupancy versus having a big break. So ideally, when you guys are getting your units, you can operate both midterm and short-term in the same unit. That way, if you get a little tired from doing Airbnb, you can always go midterm. And then once you have a midterm checkout and you don't have another midterm to kind of come occupy the unit right away, you can go ahead and list on Airbnb until you find a new midterm guest. So I love using both options in all of my units so that it allows me to have a shorter occupancy time with the least vacancies possible, right? So let's jump right on into the contacting piece, right? So before you start contacting, you want to determine whether or not you're going to want to go to a complex or if you're want to go to a private landlord. Me personally, as a homeowner myself, I enjoy going and doing business with other landlords, private landlords, because I'm able to kind of speak to that home ownership piece, right? I'm a homeowner. We will take care of your property just like it's our own, etc., right? So I love being able to have that one-on-one type of relationship. One of my private landlords, we go and have coffee together. Like, I have I believe four of my units are owned by him. And he also has a 3-bedroom that's coming up that he's trying to give to me. So like being able to build that kind of relationship with the private landlords is just an A++ for me. And I really enjoy that relationships that I'm able to build, especially when you pay your rent on time, right? So I've never been late on a single payment paying my rent. And that's another reason why we have a great relationship. So when it comes to complexes, I recommend that if you're going to go with complexes, there's a lot of pros to complexes, right? Because you have the amenities, you have the pool, you have hot tub, you have a gym on site, you have concierge, a mail room, all these things that kind of come with having a complex. That's a plus. And for a lot of travelers, it could give more of a sense of safety in a complex. With the private landlords, typically, you don't have the amenities, right? So you may or may not have a backyard, parking. So when it comes to looking for units that you are interested in, I highly recommend always having a unit that has laundry inside the unit and that has parking, especially if you're in a busy city like I am, like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, those busy cities where parking isn't always parking is an amenity. So make sure that they have those, and then you can start reaching out. So if you choose to go with a complex, I recommend using Airbnb.com. So they have now partnered with other complexes to be able to show you which apartment complexes in your city allows Airbnb and short-term rentals. The only downside to using this function is that through the website, they typically are probably going to want you to sign a lease in your personal name. And as you guys know, I don't teach that. So if you decide to go that route, more power to you, but I'm going to say make sure that you guys sign a lease that is in your business name. That's why you went through all the trouble, if you didn't already have an LLC, to create one, creating websites and just becoming more legitimate, because the point is for you guys to be able to grow this business into multiple units and not just having, this isn't a side hustle, you're building an actual business here. So do it the right way the first time and you don't have to backtrack. So, but you can at least use that function to find which apartments in your city or the city that you're interested in allows Airbnb. Then you can contact that complex maybe offline and not through Airbnb. You can contact them offline and then ask them about their corporate leasing opportunities. Okay, so we'll get into that. So we've already talked about deciding whether or not you want to go through a complex or a private landlord. Once again, if you're a brand new business, then you're likely going to have to go the private landlord route, because complexes have a bit more of a strenuous process when it comes to doing a corporate lease, right? You're going to have trade lines. You probably need to have business credit and a few other things, a few other nuances that if you're a brand new business, you likely won't qualify to be able to sign a corporate lease. But don't let that stop you from reaching out. Go ahead and reach out to the complex anyway and ask them what are their requirements, so that if you can look at their requirements and see that you don't meet them, no harm, no foul. Just keep it pushing, okay? So let's talk about how you're going to find units to even start reaching out to, right? So what I recommend using is what I used to get my first 3 yeses was HotPads, right? So I'll make sure to link those websites so that you guys can go visit them easily. But you're going to go over to HotPads. You can use Zillow, any type of rental website out there. Go ahead and pull those up and start searching. So depending on your niche, you want to make sure that the units that you're considering are within, let's say, a 10 to 15 mile driving radius of the location where your community or the industry that you're serving is going to be. So if you're going to be serving the airport employees, the pilots, and the flight attendants, then you don't want to pick a unit that's 30, 45 minutes away from the airport. You want to make sure that you're in a 10 to 15 mile, maybe no more than 30 mile radius of the airport itself. If you're going to be serving travel nurses, then you want to find the top performing hospitals in your city and go and set up shop around those hospitals. Don't go 30 minutes, 40 minutes away from the hospital, because this is very important to travel nurses because they work long hours. They just want to get home. A lot of them want to be within walking distance of the hospital if they can. So consider these things when you guys are choosing a location. So there are maps on these different platforms like HotPass, where you can put in a location where you want to be. You can put in the distance that you want to be away from that location, and then it will populate the units, the available units that are within that vicinity. So you can narrow down your search on these platforms, which is a really great tool that I know for sure that HotPass has. Okay, so you can go on there and do that, and then you want to look for the type of unit that you're interested in. So you can filter down 1 bed, 1 bath. You can check the box for laundry in unit, right? These are things that you want to make sure that each unit has. So you go ahead and filter that out so that you're not contacting landlords for units that you're ultimately not even going to be interested in, right? So go ahead and make sure that you've filtered down everything so that you're only contacting landlords or complexes that meet all of your criteria. All right. The next step is going to be actually contacting them, right? So on HotPass and Zillow, most of them, once you send that first message, it's going to repopulate the same message. So you can literally click through and send 20 to 30 messages within 5 or 10 minutes if you use the method that I'm telling you. So in order for you guys to get that first yes, highly recommend that you're making somewhere between 50 to 100 contacts per day. Okay, I use this same method and I had my first yes within 5 days by using this method, right? So it's a numbers game. You're gonna get more no's than you get yeses, but that's okay. All you need is 1 yes, right? So keep that in mind. Don't get discouraged when you guys start to reach out and make contact. So I'm also going to link below a script that you guys can use, that you can copy and paste and make your own. But essentially what you're going to reach out and say is, hi. You can personalize it if you want. Most of the listings has the landlord's name or the complex name, right? So let me go back. For the complexes, you guys can choose to reach out on the websites like HotPass and Zillow, or you can choose to go directly to the website and reach out to the complexes through their contact forms. So that's another way you guys can make contact if you're going to go to complexes route. So just wanted to throw that out there. So when you're reaching out, let's say the landlord's name is Alex, right? You want to, number one, create a sense of urgency. And number two, you want to make yourself and assert yourself like you know exactly what you're talking about, right? So you're going to say something along the lines of, hi, Alex. My name is Taylor. I found your property and it's going to be perfect for my clients. I would love to learn more about your corporate leasing opportunities. So keep it simple, just like that. And what that's going to do is some landlords, especially private landlords, the complexes, they're going to know exactly what you're talking about when you ask them about their corporate leasing opportunities. However, for the private landlords, which is again why I like this route, they may not always know what a corporate lease is. So you now become the expert and you get to explain to them what that is. And maybe a little bit of ego may kick in for them, right? Because they might not want to ask you, well, what's a corporate lease, right? They may go and Google it and then come back to you and pretend like they know what you're talking about. So this is a great opportunity for you to be able to expand on who you are, what you do, and who you serve, right? Just like any business, you need to know that. Once they get back to you, they may say, no, I'm not interested, or they'll say, hey, yeah, can you tell me more? So your response is going to be very dependent on what they say back. So feel free to message me or comment below if you get a response that you're unsure of how to answer. But essentially, this is how you guys are going to start making contact and getting an interest in when you're going to get your first yes. All right. So I also want to give you guys another way that you guys can start contacting and getting leads from specifically like private landlords. You can use platforms like Thumbtack, TaskRabbit, or Bark.com, where these platforms you can go on and list yourself as a property manager, and you can start receiving leads for people who are looking for people like you that can take over their property, operate their property without them having to be hands-on at all. So this is a great opportunity for not you having to reach out to them, but them reaching out to you, and then you're able to then pitch this opportunity for them to make more money, number one, and have their property taken a lot better care of, right? So a thing that I love to say to the private landlords is that, like, your property is going to be in better condition than it would be with a long-term tenant, because our guests are coming in 30 to 90 days at a time, and the property is being cleaned a lot more frequently, right? That's if you're doing midterm. You can also use the same pitch if you're doing short term, right? The property is being cleaned. We're getting eyes on it a lot more frequently than you would if you had a longer term tenant. So these are things that you guys are going to be able to use when you're reaching out to those landlords or the complexes. Again, the complexes are going to kind of know what's going on when you reach out to them, especially if they're already Airbnb friendly. The private landlords, you may have to, discuss with them a little bit further. So again, if you guys have questions about how to continue that conversation once you get interest from a landlord, feel free to comment below, message me, send me a voice note, however you want to message me, and I'll make sure to get back to you and help you out on that. All right, I'll see y'all in the next video.